All right, finally, Zoom decided to freak out on me. Good morning, everyone. Zoom decided to freak out. It's just been fun. How's everybody doing?
Hello.
Great. I just need 1 second here. I would like to get started on our conference. And since it's 11:33, it's high time that we get going. I wanted to start by introducing Kristen Rogers, who is our presenter at this session. Kristen Rogers is a high school chemistry and AP chemistry teacher at, is it Neshannock Township High School in Newcastle, PA for the past 3 years. She works with the science department in creating collaborative science classes, but she is the only chemistry teacher in the district. She attended NEAC for the first time last summer when she was attempting how to understand how to navigate the upcoming school year and loved the networking opportunity with others from around the country. She received her bachelor's degree in chemistry from Waynesburg University and is currently finishing up her MEd from American College of Education in STEM education. And we are so delighted that she can be here with us today. Let me check my sharing screens, and I'm going to make you a co-host, Kristen, just in case.
Perfect. Thank you. While she's doing that, I'm going to drop a link in the chat for you all. That link is, how else should I present a presentation about Google Sites and to create a Google site for my presentation. So that is the Google site link. I see a couple more people are joining, so I will wait a few more seconds and drop it in there again. All right, I'll drop it in there again, right as someone else joins. I have a feeling that'll happen a couple times. All right. All right, so I'll kind of get started as everyone's getting settled in. For some of you, you may be experts at using Google Sites and curious to see how to use it a little more in your classroom. And for others of you, you may have not even attempted to try it yet. I thought it interesting as we started this NEAC conference, you may not have noticed, but the NEAC homepage for the conference is actually a Google site. So that gives you an idea of just how active and how advanced you can make your Google Sites, as well as even how simplified you can make them. So I did throw this one together just this morning. I don't know why it slipped my mind to do this. So this was a 10-minute thrown together Google site, just to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at. But I will go through the PowerPoint as well, or the Google Slides as well with you. Like Kristen said, I came to NEAC last year, got a lot of ideas, went back into my classroom and attempted to figure out what to do with the year, and things really changed a lot throughout the year. So let me go ahead and start presenting this. Okay, so I gave you the resource for the website. I will try to keep that updated throughout the year as I make more Google Sites as well. Just to give you an overview of what I want to talk about today, kind of 3 major things we're going to look at today. Just an overview of what Google Sites actually is. If you've used it before, this is a good just overview. If you've never even seen it, this is a good front end, seeing what it looks like from even the students' perspectives when you make these. Then we'll look at some features, some hidden uses on Google Sites that I've learned throughout the years, how to actually work on the back end creating these websites. And then the goal is, if we have some time at the end, to give you a chance to just explore Google Sites. We have a decent number of participants, so I'll be able to probably break into some breakout rooms so that you can look at them, kind of have small group conversation about it, and we'll come back together and wrap it up. So again, what actually is Google Sites? So to give you a background of why I got into Google Sites last year, I didn't even know Google Sites existed until about a year ago. In the 2020 pandemic shutdown, it sounds like many of you, we were a Google Classroom school. And so we went straight into Google Classroom. I tried giving instructions to the students using the Google Classroom. And I learned there were a lot of things about Google Classroom that were not helpful. Talking to other teachers that had access to real LMS, So things like Canvas, Schoology, Blackboard, there are a lot of like embed abilities that and like other options with those paid for LMSs that a free Google Classroom didn't have. And I felt like all of my stuff was getting lost like everywhere. The kids couldn't find the resources, the kids couldn't find what they were looking for textbooks and other handouts and videos because they're getting lost in all these tabs of assignments and all this other stuff I was posting either in the stream or all those assignments like nested together in some attempt to organize. And so in the summer of 2020, I began to prepare for the school year and I found Google Sites. And so Google Sites, the idea that I had was that every Google Classroom would have a Google Site. And so my students would have the ability to go from the classroom to the sites and back. And so the assignments would be due on Google Classroom, but all of my resources and my videos and extra handouts and that sort of thing would be organized on sites. And so students would be able to go to this like homepage for the classroom. It would be a little more, I'd say, interactive, and then they would just turn stuff in on Classroom because Classroom got really cluttered so fast. So I spent the entire summer beginning to design my AP Chemistry and General Chemistry, knowing that I probably would have like an environmental science to make towards the end of the summer, small school, so I might teach multiple preps. About 3 weeks before school started, we found out we were a Schoology school. And so my school paid for Schoology and said Google Classroom is gone. And they said that we weren't to use like outside resources anymore as like a homepage. And so I just spent an entire summer trying to figure out sites and really getting passionate about the use of it and seeing how unique it could be for my students. And so I decided, well, what do I do now with this knowledge? And so I sat down and I tried to figure out what can I do with sites that would still be useful for my students. And that's kind of where this whole Google Sites kind of developed into. So if you don't know what Google Sites is, just a quick rundown, it is Google Suite's free web page creation tool. If you have a Google or a Gmail account, you do have access to Google Sites. It's free and it makes a web page that you end up getting a link to, just like we've been using with the NEACT conference. So it is free and it is actually accessible for your students as well as teachers. So that has actually been a big thing for me, is that the students can create them as well. So I actually have some of my kids create their own websites as like an overall project at the end. It is completely editable to your needs, and it does provide a final website link once you publish it for access. And the really nice thing, just like you know with all docs and slides and sheets and whatever else it might be, your access can be changed to what you need it to be. So if a student wants to publish only to certain people, you can publish it to only certain people. If you want to publish it for just your school district, that's where most of our settings are set to. So just school district would be able to access it. You can also make them public, which is what I have been doing with mine so that other teachers can use them. And then you can also make it public but not searchable, so that it doesn't show up in a Google search, or even public and searchable. So there's a lot of editability to the access of it, as well as how it looks. It's very just a blank canvas to create your site, but it's also very user-friendly. Another nice thing with Google Sites is that you can edit it while it's published. So, you know, my original plan was that my students would have the site for, we'll say, Unit 1 in my AP Chemistry class. And so my AP Chem kids would access Unit 1, and I would be busy dumping in all my Unit 2 resources. And when we move on to Unit 2, I would just republish it, and all of a sudden the Unit 2 tab would be available. So you can edit it without the kids seeing the real-time edit, which is fantastic, because then it doesn't matter what you're doing. The kids can't see, you know, oh, I don't want to put that there anyways, I need to edit this, whatever. Just when you're ready, you just hit publish and it republishes any changes. I think it's really user-friendly. And I say that as someone that was not a big fan of the Google Suite stuff. Once I've learned how the Google Suite stuff works with the sharing and the editing and all of that, I think it's very similar to all the other Google Suite options. So if you've been working with docs and slides and sheets and whatever else we have in the Google Suite. It is pretty user friendly. It didn't take too long to feel comfortable actually creating a site. And then because it is a Google Suite option, it does work really well embedding those documents, those Google Forms, whatever you have. It works really well embedding the rest of the stuff in there. And so that was something that I kind of miss because if any of you are Schoology experienced, Schoology is Microsoft based. So we are working on a program that doesn't, as I tell my kids, play well with Google, because they're two competing companies. The Google sites work really well with the Google Suite, unlike some of the stuff that we have to deal with Schoology. So when you embed, it naturally embeds, it keeps your like share settings to it. So if you have certain settings that you don't want the kids to be able to edit, that carries over to the site. Or if you want the kids to be able to edit it, it also carries over. So it does play nice, as I say, with the Google Suite. I have three major categories of personal sites I have created. The classroom resources is where I was originally starting at. So that would be your, homepage for your AP classroom, your general chemistry classroom. That could also be things like sports or like clubs. If you have an after-school club or announcements for them, you can make a nice web page for it. That's actually how my school started using it this past year as well. They do like school-wide announcements on a website. You can also make it, I know we may not have to deal with this as much, but some schools still expect this as well. If you have to have like a conversation or a location for parents to see every week, you could even make one for like parents to just see like lesson plans or whatever's going on in the classroom. So just kind of a basic overarching topic for the classroom. Activities and labs is where I ended up finding some really unique opportunities for, and that's where we're going to really focus today. So actually turning paper and pencil, here's a packet of information activity, into a website where the kids are still, writing and answering stuff on paper, but it's just not like pages and pages of reading. If it's like a scenario-based activity, especially because we were in person and virtual and hybrid, and the scenario you could think of, we probably were in it at some point last year. So this was nice because if you were in person, pull out your Chromebook and your pencil and your paper. If you were at home, pull out your notebook, pencil, and your Chromebook. It was kind of the same no matter where you were, which is really nice. And then I actually turned some of my labs into virtual labs with a website. And I found that was nice because you can split the lab up into its pieces, and then you can put the links and the videos and embed them right in. Instead of saying, here's a list of videos to watch and here's a handout, it was a progression through the website. One activity I have not created, but one I am trying to create and I'm working on, if any of you have done virtual escape rooms, I've done some in person with my kids, but I've never done a virtual one. You can make a personal Google site for that as well. So that's one that I'm attempting to work on. And then the third type I've actually used is a student created assignment. So I tell my kids, your group of students, your group that you're working with are going to create a website to encompass the research that you did in the lab, or you're going to create a website for younger children to learn about some phenomenon that we learned about in chemistry class, or whatever it might be. So giving the students an opportunity to create their own websites. Once they're published, you can share them. So I actually did this with my AP chemistry kids when we were in lockdown. They created a virtual website that was some type of science lesson for like 5th grade students. They made a website and actually shared it with the 5th grade teachers. And so then they could share it with their students and complete the activities that my kids had created. So really nice opportunity for something different. You can also highlight student work. This is something that I think in my first year of teaching, I didn't necessarily think like high school chemistry kids want their stuff on the walls. But I think kids like to see, sometimes they do like posters, or you do activities with them. They want to see it. They want to see what their friends did. when everything's virtual, they can't see, their work as a final product. And so I actually made a website for one of the projects that I do in my class. And I put all of the students' work in there, and I shared it with like administration and other teachers and with each other. And the kids love just getting to see it and look at the other kids' work and kind of learn. And I had them do an activity just like walking through, we talked about gallery walks of student work. This was kind of a virtual gallery walk for the kids. So even just, it was pretty much just dumping the kids' work into it and organizing it just a little bit and hitting the publish button. But the kids were able to see each other's work, and it kind of gave this overall, the project's done. Here's my final product. This is some examples, and I'm actually going to click on these and look at them. So these are some examples of the different pages that I've created. They all look different in the sense of like their shape, and we'll talk about that. But because it is a website, it does work just as a website for your phone, for your tablet, for your laptop. So the kids can save it if they wanted to, but they can access it anywhere, which is really nice because I had some kids with a couple of these projects, like some kids actually saving it as like a link on their phone so they could access it again, which was again the original intent when I made the home pages. So I'm going to show you what a couple of these look like and kind of talk about them, and then we'll get into the other side of what it looks like when you create them. All right, this is my published AP Chemistry page. Like I said, I didn't finish it. So you will have access to this, and I'll show you in a moment. You'll have access to all of this to look at, but it's not finished. I'll probably go back and finish it at some point, but again, I was trying to learn a new LMS, so I kind of gave up on this one halfway through. But you can see this is what a home page for your classroom setting could look like. I embedded a timer to the AP Chemistry test date. Obviously, we are now 74 days past that date, so the timer kept going. It's now counting up how many days past the AP test we are. But that gives you an idea. You can actually embed things in to the actual page. I have a little bit about me. I actually shared this with another classroom for the unit 1 and 2 stuff, so it's a little more general to random. We also have, you can embed buttons. These buttons should look familiar. There's a lot of those on the NEACT page. So you can embed buttons that'll take you to outside resources. So YouTube channels, Khan Academy, some interactive review I found. You can embed PDFs. So these are some PDFs that I embedded for AP, even like the classroom guide. And then you can also embed YouTube videos, and they will play right on the page, which is really nice because then the kids don't have 9 million tabs open like I feel like I always do. And then you can also embed Google Slides. And I'll show you this, but when you embed a Google slide, it automatically puts it in presentation mode. So you don't have to worry about, do the kids have access to edit it? Do the kids see like my notes at the bottom when I made my Google slides? They just see it automatically in presentation mode. And they can open it wider. This is a pop out. And so it automatically puts it in a big screen presentation mode, but it still is just presentation mode. So no crazy like access. So that would be like a homepage website if you're looking for like a homepage. This one is one of my virtual labs I created. I was dreaming of doing at least the flame test lab with my kids in person as a demo, if nothing else. If I couldn't figure out how to do it socially distanced safely in masks with hybrid or whatever it was, I was going to do this one no matter what in person. We went virtual 4 days before I started this chapter, and we stayed virtual for 2 months after that. So I knew I had to do this lab somehow virtually. Takes away some of the excitement, but still was able to figure out something for it. So this is what a virtual lab of mine would look like. All I do is I take my lab and I break it into all the different parts of my lab as different tabs. And so that allows the kids to know exactly where they're going, what they're supposed to do. They still get a copy of the lab handout. It's a Google Doc down here. They hit this and they make themselves a copy. They can follow through with it. If they were in person, I gave them a printed copy. I actually found kids were driving 5-10 minutes to come back to the school just to pick up the printed copy because they wanted that hard copy. But it's still all here for them to see in order. The idea is my kids were getting lost. I would say, okay, we're doing a virtual lab today. I have 3 videos you need to watch. They go with parts A, B, and C. And I try to make the directions as clear as possible. And my kids were still trying to figure out where they were supposed to go, what video went with what part. They weren't following in the sequential order that in-person labs would follow. And so I found if I made this website, it's force them a little easier to follow the order that I needed them to follow. So they would click on introduction, they would read the scenario. If you've ever done the contaminated well lab, this is just the contaminated well lab. I can't even claim the videos that you'll find in this lab. Someone else, another teacher I know, shared her videos or shared his videos. I don't even remember who it is. I feel bad now. But they shared their videos of all of the different tests. And then I just pulled those and put them into this setting. So again, this is not my complete own lab. It's just a creation of one that I've used. So again, so I put the scenario, I pulled some Google images just to make it exciting, have my objective, right? Then you have your background, again, pulled pictures, diagrams I'd want them to see. In their pre-lab in this one, you see the flame test instructions and information from a textbook. Again, they can pop it out to see it in larger text, but there's their pre-lab. I still included the safety. Did they read it? Probably not, but I at least included it so I know it's complete. So if I do this exact lab next year in person, hopefully, and I have a kid that's absent or virtual or not able to be in class for weeks or whatever it might be, I know they're still getting the safety. I know they may not read it, but I know I'm still providing it for them. It's there if they finally do read it. Analysis of knowns. So then I tell them the order they're tested in. Here's a video. Their unknowns with the video. Post-lab results and conclusion, exactly what I expect from them. And then I do a lab report with this one. And so I still required the lab report. And I provided exactly what I expected from the lab report, as well as my rubric. And so the rubric was there. They can't say, I don't know where the rubric is. Is it on Schoology? Is it in my handout? It's there. And then I also made a Loom video for any of you that are Loom users, embeds easily as well. So I made a Loom video to provide, hey, I know these are the things you forgot last time on your lab report. Don't miss these points again. So again, all I had to do was send them this link and tell them, I expect you to get this handout done and submitted to me, and I expect your lab report in 1 week or whatever it is. And so all I had to do now is send them a link instead of 2 videos and a handout and more instructions and, hey, don't miss these instructions, etc. This is an activity. So again, instead of a lab, this is an activity. If you've ever done the, is it the airplane 1023, flight 1023, the empirical molecular formula lab? I think a lot of people have done that one. Love that lab or that activity. The issue I have with it, 2 issues. Number 1, it's really long. When you pair them up or you put them in groups or whatever, and you tell them that you have to do all the data analysis for all 20 or whatever it is, substances for empirical and molecular formula, it's not too bad. When I was doing this one, I had most of my kids virtual. If I had told them to do it individually on their own, I don't know what would have happened. So I looked for a different one, same idea. I wanted this forensics feel, but I wanted it to be something a little different and also not as Googleable. Sadly, Flight 1023 is everywhere on the internet, so it's easy to access. I found this Daniel Demoy one, much simpler. It only has 4 substances to analyze, but when you analyze those 4 substances, you still go through the whole victim and suspects and timeline and that sort of thing. So I thought it was still a very good process and a good little activity to do, but only 4 instead of 20 or whatever the flight 1023 is. If you Google this one, and I will say this since you have access to this and you can use it, if you Google this one, I did change the answer. So I worked backwards, and I don't remember anymore which suspect ends up being found guilty, but it is not the one that Google says. So if you end up using this one at all in your classroom, it's not the Googled answer. So make sure you just kind of work through it and check it. It was pretty easy to know which kids Googled and which kids didn't, because they would give me answers that did not make sense. This one is very cut and paste. And that's what I like about this one is normally in my classroom, I hand them a packet of words and numbers, and I tell them, calculate it, answer it, and give it back. And, you know, they're working together and you make this whole scenario of the investigation. It's just cut and paste. All I did was chop all those words into a couple different tabs, and I sent them the website and I said, this is what you're doing. You're looking for which suspect do we convict and why. And so at the bottom, you can see there's evidence analysis and a forensics report. The analysis is just, again, you click on them, you make a copy. The analysis was just to organize their thoughts. The report was a forensics report layout that I use in my classroom. It looks a little more official, that the kids would analyze everything about. But again, it's just cut and paste. I added some images of crime scene tape, and then I added some Googled images. And so again, a picture, a label, the information with the calculations they will use for 4 different items. And then the victim and suspects kind of give you an idea of which piece of evidence matches which suspect, so that they know. Again, Googled images of actresses and actors that nobody knows. And then samples for comparison. Again, unlabeled drug bottle, they had 2 options. Which formula did you find at the very end? Was it joint spray, a harmless drug, or was it hypoprolactin with this molecular formula? And so each of them matched one of these scenarios. The partially full bottle of acetaminophen, I tell them that you need 0.3 moles to be poisoned. And they have to figure out that one. They have to figure out, am I missing 0.3 moles from the bottle? And then the research, same thing. Is it just a hydrocarbon or is it benzene? And so they work through and then they compare. And I tell them this is in an order for a reason. You start with the evidence, analyze the victim and the suspect. So you match the evidence to the suspect, and then you identify what each sample was. So again, very simple, just cut and paste. But I found that students liked it in this setting because it was, here's a link, that's all you need. And I had some kids in person, I handed them the analysis page and I gave them the link, and they worked at their desks with their Chromebooks and the link and the paper. And the kids that were at home, I had them pull out paper, or they could type and add images onto the Google Doc, and still same link. So everyone was using the same project. I didn't have, you know, contact tracing issues when kids were positive with COVID and a lot of other crazy things that had I just given them packets and said work together could have happened. So again, activities, labs, and then just to give you an idea of the other ones, I won't spend much time on these. Kids can make websites. So if you are, like Pennsylvania is now career readiness standards. So on top of my chemistry standards, I also have to cover some career readiness standards. That's, I think, becoming pretty common. I have my kids work together to make a homepage of some careers that they might be interested in science, technology, engineering, and math. And so kids can create these. They can, you know, make websites with the information, and then they just share it with me as a link, and all I have to do is go through the link and actually see what's going on. So again, kids can make them. My kids are pretty fast at making them. They're pretty comfortable making them because the kids are very tech savvy and it is pretty user friendly. And then this would just be, and I do not have you with access to this one because it has student information on it. So I'll show it to you, but you won't actually have access to it. But the idea is I do this junk science unit conversation for another day, but the idea is my students learn about different methods of sorting research and articles to know if it's valid research and valid science or not. I teach them 3 methods: the SIFT method, the go upstream method, and the read laterally. They do an informing the public project, where at the end of the unit, they make either an infographic or a video, like a public announcement video, to inform the public about one of these 3 methods and why they should learn it. And then I put them all into this website, and I share this link out to my administration and some teachers. And I tell them, hey, if you want to learn more about the junk science my kids are learning and how to inform the public in these methods in class, contact us. Come on down, visit. My kids would love to share this with you. And my kids love it because it is very, my kids are the experts in this now. And, they're not necessarily as well-rounded in this junk science, but they love that this website goes out public, because then they get to show off what they did. And they kind of look like they understand and they can teach others. And so again, we have kids that have made, little PowerPoint, Google slides that you can slide in here, and they can see the different methods. I can also put, if they made just one large infographic, I had a few that made just one large one as a PDF, you can input it as a PDF or an image. If it's a video, you just upload the video. And so all the kids' work can go in right here, and you can see everything going on, and you can learn about what's going on. So the kids loved this because they knew that they were the experts now, getting to share with others. It wasn't just, you're going to inform the public, but I'm not going to share your work with anyone. Like, they got to see their work as they informed the administration about what they learned. So that was kind of cool that the kids really enjoyed that. I'll stop here. Any questions so far before we look at the back end of it?
Now I want to do your forensics labs. I've always liked that approach, but the time to put it together always seemed, it just was a lot. So like being able to say, like, here's a version that's almost ready to go, is just delightful. And there was, now I want you to also come back next year and do a presentation on your whole junk science lesson. And like
I'm very passionate about that.
We could have you do a whole series.
Yeah, so I will tell you that it looks like it takes a lot of time with these like CSI investigation websites, but it really is, if you have an activity that's just word heavy, it really is just copy and paste, drag and drop, make a couple tabs and publish. It's really not too bad. Making the activities, if you don't have activities that work that way, might take longer, but the actual website side doesn't take too long once you get used to it. So I'll just kind of show you the other side of it and give you a couple ideas with it. So actually creating the site, like I said, it took a little getting used to at the beginning, but now I can make them pretty fast. They might not look as professional as I'd like them to, but it does get a lot faster. I can throw them together pretty quick, especially those copy and paste, like drag and drop ones. Couple things that you can do with them that I really appreciate. Number one, you can embed a Google form that the students can fill out right there. You don't have to give them a link to a form that they go and fill out. You can embed the Google form and the kids can fill it out right on the site. Like I've shown you, you can embed links from outside resources. Anything that has the embeddability, Loom was one of them. You just pull that iframe coding and you hit the embed button and you drop it in there and it appears. Like you've seen, you can embed Google Docs and then the kids can open them either as a link to make a copy, or they can open it and work together on it, which is also nice. And then you've seen Google Slides automatically embed as a presentation. So I'll just show you a couple things on the other side of it. If you have a Google Gmail account, it just cites .google. This is the back end side of it. So you can make as many websites as you want, which is fantastic. So just like your classroom, Google Classroom, you can keep making them. You can make as many as you want. These are the ones I have. You can make a blank one, or you can use any of their gallery like templates. I've never actually used their templates, but I'm assuming that they're halfway decent. I normally just start with a blank one, and it seems to work pretty well for me, at least. I will show you, we'll look at this one. I'll show you kind of what it looks like setting wise, and go from there. So this would have been my general chemistry one. It is nowhere near done. This was the one I was working on when I found out about Schoology, so I abandoned this one pretty fast, but at least you can see what's kind of in the works website. So I made all my tabs up here. When you start making these, you just go over to themes and you can choose whatever you want. They're very simple, but you can make them look so different just with a few clicks. So you just choose whatever you want. You can change colors, fonts, the normal like settings. You can make as many pages as you want. So that's these headings at the top. You can also make them run to the side instead. And I do enjoy changing that up, but whatever you want, that's what I have so far. I was going to do each chapter had a different link, but obviously I abandoned that. So you can keep adding as you need new pages. It doesn't matter how many you have. If you have too many, it just makes like a little drop down arrow with all the lists. So you just keep adding till you're done. And then when you go into insert on each page, you have a ton of options, which is really nice. These are the major 4 you'll use, but if you need anything else, they're here. Text box is obviously text box. Images is nice because you can upload from your computer, and you can also select from your drive, URL, image search, photos. The Google image search is nice because it's just right away Googling it. So you can do that real quick, pull a picture and call it a day. Embed is where you would get the iframe. So embed code, that would be your iframe code. Cynthia, I just saw your message. You can make it as restricted or open as you want. I'll show you that here. So when you publish it, you see the share with others. I can share and I can give like NEAC the ability to be an editor. So you can have kids work together and edit the same page. And then when you're ready to publish it, you can publish the site as restricted to just specific groups. You can also publish it to, like, that's just my school district, so that you have to have a Gmail account logged in to see it, or you can make it public. And so I think I make most of mine public just so any other teacher that wants to use it can use it. And you can all look at it right now. But you do have that ability. You also have the ability when you, now I forget where the setting is. It might be in publish. Yeah, here it is. You can also make it so it can show up when you Google it on a search engine, or it may not show up on a search engine. So you can change the web address, and you can make it so that Google won't let anyone else find it just by Googling. So publish settings and sharing settings, just like normal Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, whatever it might be. You have some layout options. I use these, so then I add some pictures, right? So I click on one of these, I add a Google image, and I copy and paste all the text from my activity. And it looks like I spent a lot of time doing it, but I didn't. I just did a little bit of manipulation on how it looks and call it a day. If you need any of the advanced ones, they're down here. Nothing too crazy. You have table of contents, image carousel, button, divider, placeholder. YouTube will embed the YouTube. YouTube is just nice and embeds it right away. A calendar, if your classroom has a calendar, you can actually embed your classroom in. So back when I was using the the Google Classroom, these are all my Google Classroom classes. So I could embed the calendar right into that as well. Map, I guess if you want to like highlight a location. Docs, slides, sheets, forms, and charts. And again, slides automatically in their published look, which is nice. Forms will look like this, and the kids can answer it right there, which is also really nice. Charts, you would choose a sheet that you made a chart from, and it just pulls only the chart. And so then when you add it, I will show you this as one of the last things I'll show you, and then I can answer some questions. So if I embed this at the end, so here's the presentation I was showing you today. I can slide it around. You can see how it tells you kind of like where it's centered and stuff. You can change the size, do whatever you want. It's very user-friendly, just click and drag. So I've changed my homepage of general chemistry. Now, general chemistry was published. I published it just for this. I never used it in my classroom, but it's now published. And I just added something new. The page doesn't have this showing, but when I go to publish, it says, hey, you made a change on the home page. And you can see exactly what that change is. So you can see I have this on the draft, and this is not there for currently published. So you can review your changes. So if you make some changes and then you're like, I'm not done yet, it'll save it. And you can work on changes for a couple days. And then when you're ready, it'll show you every place you made a change. And you can look at those changes first before you publish it. So you might be like, oh, I didn't actually want that there. I forgot about it. And you just go back and delete it. And then it won't be published. So it's nice that you can review your publish settings and changes before you actually publish it. You can also unpublish. So if there's a page that in the end you don't want out there, you can unpublish, and then you can just view your published site. There was one other thing I wanted to show you, and then I wanted to give some time. I know we started a little late, but might be able to get a few minutes. Okay, so this is the site that I sent you all. I wanted to show you a couple other options that I've shown you, or that I haven't shown you that I'd like to show you. Timers, I like adding timers. I don't know, maybe it puts too much pressure on the kids. I think a little bit of pressure is good for them. So this is, if you ever wanted to embed a timer, you just find a place that allows you to embed a timer for your websites. You fill out all the information, and then like I said, you just want to show HTML, and you copy this whole nasty words and you just paste it into that embed site. So on the pages, if I want to put a timer, you just say embed and you would paste it right here. So you can embed a timer if you want. It would look like this when you're done. And then again, you can change the size, change where it's located, move it around. If any of you attended the InnoReader workshop yesterday, fantastic. So cool that we can like make this RSS feed of like interesting reads. I don't know how I'll use it in my classroom, but obviously I'm very interested. You can embed it into your Google Sites the same way. So you get that iframe HTML code and you dump it in. And this was the quick one I made yesterday during the workshop. I don't know if these articles are any good, but they're at least here for you, just as an example. So it automatically pulled in that InnoReader RSS. So you can now embed. I know that was something that came up yesterday, was Google Classroom doesn't allow you to embed. So you'd have to either make like a newsletter that gets emailed or its own website. You can embed it right into the Google Sites, which is nice. I also put a video. I did not watch it. I think it's 30 minutes, but it's some other Google site information as well. And then this will not show up on your side because it is protected as security because it was an AP Chem class from my Google Classroom days. But you can see how a calendar would look, and the kids can look at it as today, and you can go through. And this would be like a map. That's my school. So you can see, you can embed a map as well. Personal Google sites. These are all the sites that I've made. You have access to them. They should all be public and wide open for you to use as you want. The only downside to Google Sites is that I can't give you like editable access without creating a new site and then adding you as an editor. So these are published, like finished sites. So you can use them as is, but it's very hard for you to actually go back and fix or change or do anything you want to them to make them more for your classroom, just because you don't have access in that sense. So these are finished for you to use, check out, look at however you want, but they are not editable, sadly. And then again, like I said, as I do more Google sites, I'd like to add some more here, but we'll see if I get to that point. I'm going to try to keep this as updated as possible for you all since you have the link now. And then I have contact information as well for you all to be able to contact me. We started a little late and I went a little over. So instead of breaking you into breakout rooms like I planned, sorry, Kristen, I said I might and I'm not going to. So
It's fine. We actually have, we're scheduled in the session till 12:30 anyway.
okay.
So it's not a problem. And
I will
we
stop
can go, I
sharing.
mean, it just goes into lunch. So if people want to stay a little bit longer because they want to talk, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to break you into breakout rooms and let you kind of just either look at the Google sites on your side, like sites.google, or look at the ones I've made and kind of talk about ways that you could see using them in the classroom. But we can have an open conversation. If anyone has questions or thoughts on how you might use this in the classroom, what I'd like to do, I have that Google Sheet and I will find mine. I have a Google Doc that I will open and share. I have too many tabs open. Someone's talked about too many tabs many times in this these workshops, and I agree. I will share this.
Yes, I agree. I had so many tabs open that everything just stopped right in the middle of your presentation. Like I had to start closing everything just so that I could get it to work.
My Google Meet would just like, sometimes my computer would just be like, no, because
Yep.
there was like too many things. And
Too much.
till Google Meet added like breakout rooms, I had to make separate rooms. So I was trying to run like 13 on one computer. So it was.
So are there any, first I'll start with just any general questions. Any questions about how I use it, other tools, questions I didn't answer? Laura, I see you raised your hand.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Thank you for presenting. So if you were collaborating with a colleague and say you made a website, like one of your lab activities, and you wanted them to have their own copy and you to have your own copy, is it possible to copy your file to share it with someone and
It
then they
is.
can have, okay. Because like I'm looking at what you shared with us, we can't
Yeah.
copy that.
Right.
Okay.
So on my end, I can duplicate the site.
Okay.
And then once you duplicate it, you can share it with the same editors, or you can share it with just specific people. You can put it in a specific location. If there's any of my sites that any of you personally want to have a duplicate of to edit, let me know. And I can like share that with you. It's just a little difficult to make new copies for everyone. So
Right.
email me. I'll give you the email at the end. Email me and I can make a duplicate. But yeah, if you make one, and that's a great question. Actually, I forgot to mention, I had been making some for like Gen Chem, and then I thought, oh, I can make this harder for my AP. Well, instead of starting all over, I can duplicate it and then ramp it up to the AP level I need it, or simplify it down to a CP level, or whatever you might need. So yeah, you can just duplicate it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you worry about copyright on the images that you've embedded?
I probably should more than I do. I don't worry about it too much. I try when I Google images to put in there, I forget how I word it, but I try to put in there like so that it's not a copywritten image. And then some of these are just like clip arts. I've used like, this is a clip art image in the back. So I don't worry too much. I probably should more than I do. I got a little better at it once I started getting more into the sites. At first I was like, it's just for my kids. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just my like 10 AP kids looking at it. And then as I got into it and I saw the value in it, I did get a little more careful with the images I chose. I don't know if that really answers your question. I probably should be more than I am.
is there a place to like record like underneath an image, like this image was taken from this
Yes.
site? Okay.
Yes, there is. So, and most of the images, if they have that on them, it automatically pulls it in. So if I don't know, we'll just put a person. Yeah, so this one didn't come with one. Some of them do. Of
Okay.
course, the first one I do doesn't actually come with the little like where it came from. We'll see if one of these comes. Nope, none of them want to. Of course they don't. But yeah, you can add a caption.
Okay, perfect. That's
So-
all you really need. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them come with it. Apparently, I'm choosing the ones that don't. So if they don't come with it, you can always add a caption.
Perfect.
Protect yourself from that.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Now I'm just thinking about how I want to use this, because I've maintained my own website for my course for a number of years, and I had to recreate it last year. But in terms of making like smaller things, instead of doing I don't know, a Padlet, or, like we had to have a list of all of our resources so that the parents could access it. This might be an easier way to do that.
Yeah. I found it. I found like making the activities, the kids enjoyed them as well. And I actually found that my kids like to make them themselves.
Right. So like as an assessment, or just like a project.
Yeah, we actually have a teacher at my school district. She and I were both making like Google Sites for our classes when we went Schoology. And so she was kind of in the same boat as me, but she's a history teacher. And she started making, all the kids had a portfolio as a Google Site. So at the end of every 9 weeks, they were to find like one FRQ that they answered that they liked their writing of, and one whatever. And so they pooled all these projects in, and they had a tab for each 9 weeks, and it was like a portfolio of their AP history.
Or if you wanted to have a lab portfolio like that they could take with them to college. I know bio really recommend AP bio. That's a big thing, but we could have them do that too. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and then the kids have it, and it's published so they can share it easily with others.
Right. Or if they needed to document, yes, I've done these labs, so I'm trying to place out a freshman chem.
Yeah.
That would be helpful. So I'm just trying to think about, because it's fairly quick to put together, and you can link all kinds of things in. I'm also thinking, because we have a new chemistry teacher at my school, and he's brand new. Like he taught last year for the first year at a different school, and they weren't in person most of the time. And we're both going to be teaching the same course. So this might be a way to share his, like, so I can make sure he has all the resources, because I'm like, I want it taught this way. Right. Like I can share all the resources there. So it's sort of like a unit guide. Thinking back to what Linda did yesterday with Year at a Glance. Kind of maybe a way of doing Year at a Glance with a Google site.
Yeah, and I had even thought about, the STEM teacher and I are starting to try to collaborate more. And so we're debating making a STEM website where my chem kids and his STEM kids can get resources for the other side as well, because not all of my chem kids take his like engineering courses. But if we're going to collaborate, now we have a website that the two of us can, have different tabs on and dump resources into.
And I'm also thinking, like, since it is easy for the kids to do, and with their school email accounts, they're all Google accounts, so that I could have them like make your lab report in this, and they can collaborate. That's always been, an issue of, I do like them still to write a formal lab report. They need to have written a few of them. And my upcoming AP students didn't do any in-person labs, so I didn't have them do any written labs. And so in honors chem, it was all Pivot or other, Gizmos. So they need to be able to put a lab report together, but you want to try and lower the burden.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think like
might be an easy way to make that doable.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of, if you use PhET a lot, I'm talking about virtual and everything, PhET should actually embed pretty well into these as well. So anything that embeds should embed pretty well. And it's nice because the kids don't have to make another like account, even though you might be able to hit the like use Google sign in or whatever. I just
Right.
feel like there's so many accounts. We could do
Right.
this with WordPress or another, like blogging type website, but it's not as editable to begin with. And then it's just another account that the kids have. And so this is nice because it's not going to send them like emails. I know that happens too. The kids are like, I'm getting 9 million emails from this one account we made for 3 projects and everything.
I'm also thinking, now I have this idea, like we have to, in Massachusetts, it's part of our evaluator plan, we have to have teacher goals and then student goals, student learning goals, but then like more process oriented goals for the teacher. And you could easily say, I'm going to create so many Google Sites things for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, definitely. I will stick around, but I don't want to disrespect your time. So I want to make sure you get my email address as well. I know some of you might be ready to go to lunch. So I'll stick around for a few minutes if you have more thoughts or anything. On that Google site I did give you, if you could take a moment just to take the Google form survey that's embedded in there. I actually would like to really see your last, the question that asks you, how would you like to use this just one time in your classroom? I might be using your answers to help build next year's Google Sites for myself as well. So if you could take just a few moments to answer that, and there are email addresses for me if you need access to a duplicate of one of my sites. If you are using one of my sites and you have questions on the answers or how to solve it, if you have other questions, I know Kristen said something about the junk science. I'm very passionate about that. So if you have questions about that unit, please contact me. First one is my school address. Second one is my maiden name, email address that I haven't changed yet. And then I do have a blog if anyone wants to check it out at lightbulboflearning.wordpress. It is pretty new, but I've been trying to blog on there about the junk science unit and trying to teach in a pandemic and that sort of stuff.
I just also entered that information onto the summary sheet from that we put together for the conference.
Okay.
So your email, all your emails and the blog and all that.
Can you share once again that link that you're talking about?
Yeah.
That
Let me find it and not send as a direct message to someone on accident. There we go. And I will stop sharing my screen, but if anyone has any other questions or anything, please let me know.
Kristen, I have one last question.
Yeah.
The when you publish your site, is there a place for you to copy and paste the link to the site?
Yeah, so when you publish it, what I normally do is I publish it and then I hit there's a button below the publish that says go to published site.
Oh, okay.
And I just check to make sure everything looks okay. Every once in a while, I'll find out like one of the pages didn't publish. And like you hit like a tab and it's like error. And then I just go back and republish again. But I just click through the tabs and then I just copy the homepage link.
Okay.
So I normally just check because one time I published it and then the kids are like, it doesn't work. So I just check them real quick.
You're like, no.
Did all this work?
I made it. You mean technology sometimes doesn't help us?
Imagine that.
Sometimes there are, I don't know, glitches. I did finally figure out what was making the Dr. McLean's keynote speech play on my computer. I was like, where is this?
I'm glad you found it at least.
I was too, because I was like, it's hard to run a session when you have Dr. McLean talking about mass spec in the background. I get enough of that conversation at home because that's what my husband does. So
My favorite this year was when they sent emails like, oh, Google's down. And you're like, school starts in 5 minutes and half the kids are at home.
right,
And Google's down. You can't even email them.
right,
Yep. And everything's on Google in our school.
right.
So.
Yeah, we are too. The Wi-Fi would just mysteriously go out in the whole town. Not just the
Yeah.
school, but like the town was down. And then the kids were like, I can't do my work. No, this was really interesting. And just like the technology is there. I knew about Google Sites, but just how can I use it in a way that's meaningful, that's not making extra work for me, that's making things more practical, right?
Yeah.
Like that it's not so much the technology, it's not that hard to figure out some of these things. It's like, why is it worthwhile to explore? And that's one of the best things, because you can do it across different things. So if you teach other courses or other subject areas, you can still bring it into play. And I really like that. So that's really good. All right, I'm going to end this meeting now so that we can all go get some lunch, and everyone needs to, I don't know, move around. And my smartwatch keeps like, you have 250 steps left to do this hour. I'm like, yeah, that's not happening.
Mine thought I was working out. I talk with my hands and it was like,
Oh.
oh, you're running. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. Yeah.
So my watch thought I did a workout during my presentation. So, you know.
All right, so I'm going to end the meeting here. This was great, and I'll see
Thank
you
you
all
guys
in
for
the
coming.
Thank you.
main
Thank
meeting
you.
in an hour.
Okay, great. Thanks,
Yep.
Kristen. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And Kristen.
And Kristen.
Bye.